Hello, welcome to More Yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you're doing well. As you can see, as I record, it's a beautiful sunny day here in Vancouver. I know that always helps lift my mood, certainly after weeks of rain. um, so let me bring some of that sunny energy to you today. We're going to be working variations of side plank today. Whew, that's a tough one, Vashisthasana. Um, and we will build up to the one on the hand with the maybe lifting the leg. But there are lots of ways to ease into it, okay? So trust me, follow along with me. Lots of options along the way. Sound good? Okay, let's start lying down. Again, with my props always being at the wrong end of my mat. All right, take your time getting settled on the mat. You might, depending on how your day has been, you might need some, time to get some wiggles out or release some tension in the body. Maybe you feel ready to be still and sort of splattered on the mat right away. And when you feel ready to be still, for a few breaths, inhale through your nose. And exhale, sigh your breath away. A couple more. And continue breathing however you need to, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. Yawn if you need to. Notice if you're holding any last muscle gripping or tension and try to let it go. Even a little wiggle of the body can help release that tension that we are unknowingly holding. Last couple breaths here. And start to bring a little bit of movement back to your body. Whatever way feels best for you to wake up. It could be a big yawning stretch, or it could be really small and subtle movement. And then start to interlace your hands, reach them over top of your head, and reach your legs away from you. And then press your heels away from you as you press your low back into the floor. And then point your toes, lift the low back up. And then draw your knees into your chest and take a little rock from side to side. Might feel really good here to draw circles with the thigh bones and the hip sockets. Or maybe you're just rocking side to side, or just moving however you need to move to wake your body up a little bit. And then pause in the center. Bring your feet to the floor, hip width apart-ish, close enough into your bum. You can tickle your heels with your fingertips. And then wrap your shoulder blades onto your back. So you might notice we're setting up for a bridge pose. Why are we doing this? I thought we were going to be doing side plank, Emily, you might be wondering. Well, some of our variations are going to include really strong work for the legs and the glutes. So let's warm them up a little bit here. All right, press your heels into the earth. Inhale, lift your pelvis and spine up and away. And exhale, slowly lower back down. So really gentle to start with. Inhaling to lift and exhaling to lower. Last couple breaths here. And then the next time you come down, pause on your back. And then shake out your legs a little bit or take a windshield wiper of your knees. And then from here, it might feel really good to grab the backs of your thighs. You can rock and roll up and down your spine. Maybe shoulder blades to sit bones if that feels good. If not, roll to one side, press yourself up, and we'll meet on hands and knees. And eventually, setting up with your knees underneath your hips. Toes can be tucked or untucked behind you, doesn't really matter. Hands outer shoulder width apart or wider though. And spread your fingers wide. Grip the mat with the finger pads. And let's move through cat and cow. So inhale, lift the tailbone, hollow through the lower back. Wrap the shoulder blades toward each other, beam your heart forward. Exhale, tuck your tailbone under, round through your spine. Really press the floor away from you. Inhale to dip into cow. Exhale, round into cat. So a few more of these on your own time, on your own breath. And you might start to take a little wag of the tail from side to side, or bigger barrel rolls through your chest or shoulders. Just move how you need to move here for a couple more breaths. And then come back to center. Give your hands a little shake out. And then let's fire up the muscles of the forearm because we are going to be doing some balancing on the arms, on the hands. And so the more these guys are able to work, the less pressure the wrists are going to take. I'm going to turn to face you. So come up onto fingertips on both hands. And then start to scrape, I guess, flick your fingertips towards each other. And you could do this on your mat. Gives you a little bit more tension. So just one side at a time. And it's really like you're clawing your mat. You might start to really feel this in the palm of the hand and the back of the arm. Okay, other side. Right, clawing the mat. And then maybe both hands at the same time. And then pause. And then keep that action, that sort of hugging towards each other of all the finger pads, as if you're trying to flick your hands or your fingertips toward each other, but instead you're going to press your palms down to the floor. So you feel that activation, right? Super, super active through the muscles of the forearm, through the palms of the hands to protect your wrists. All right, I'm not facing the right way. You keep your hands where they are unless they need to go wider. And then tuck your toes, lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. And here you might pedal the heels toward the floor, bending one leg and then the other, and take a little wag of the tail from side to side. And then take a couple shoulder shrugs, warming up those shrug muscles. And then bend your knees, look forward. Exhale, walk, step, or hop to the top edge of your mat, standing forward fold. You could rest your elbows on your knees or thighs for more support, or bring your hands to blocks, right, to draw the floor up to you. You could clasp opposite elbows with hands. You could sway a little bit from side to side. Whatever you feel like you need. And then fingertips to shins, inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. 2 more, just like that. All right, and then bend your knees, plant your hands again, fingers spread really wide. Step back to hands and knees. Little wiggle or shake. We're gonna do a little bit of single knee balancing. So if you'd like to bring a block underneath your left knee, now is a good time to do that. And then step your right toes or leg back behind you. Really active through that right leg. Little draw of belly button to spine. And then maybe you lift the right leg back behind you. Make sure that you don't lift it so much that you start to have to dip into the low back. So when you look back, maybe you can even see your toes flexing toward the floor. Fingers spread really wide on that right hand. Option to stay here. Maybe you reach the left arm forward and up. Thumb to the sky. Palm to the right. Draw the hand up and out of your peripheral vision. Keep pressing the low back up to the sky. Awesome. Okay, bring your left hand back to the floor. Right leg or toes to the floor. And then kickstand your left foot out to the side a little bit. Bring your left hand forward and in. And on your inhale, start to open out to the left. Okay, so here we go. Here's our first modified side plank, right? Most of our support is coming from that bottom knee. Think of spiraling the upper right ribs open to the sky. Top arm might reach up to the sky. And you might take little side bends here. You might squeeze the bum and press the hips forward a little bit more. Some of you might choose to de-weight that top leg. Sometimes modified side plank can just feel like a bit too much on the hips and the low back. So maybe you lift that leg up. And then wrap that bottom shoulder onto your back. Press the floor away from you with that bottom hand. Last breath here. And then slowly unwind. Come back to center and bring your right knee down to the mat. Little wiggle or shake to release. And then we'll switch sides. So again, if you're using padding to start with, bring it underneath the right knee. And then press the floor away from you a little bit with your hands. Step the left leg back. Take the time here to activate that left leg. Get it really active. So squeeze the bum, squeeze the top of the thigh, and maybe you start to de-weight that leg. Again, think of reaching the heel back and toes to the floor. It doesn't have to be lifted up too high. And then really plant that left hand, fingertips spread wide. Maybe you reach the right arm. Woo! Forward and up. Thumb to the sky, palm to the left. That's one thing about using padding under the knee is sometimes it shifts your weight in unexpected ways. Couple more breaths here. Press the low back up to the sky. All right, and then bring your right hand down and in slightly. Kickstand your right foot out to the side, and then as you inhale, open to the left now. Make sure this bottom shoulder isn't jutting forward. Wrap it onto your back, and then start to spiral the upper left ribs open to the sky. And maybe you stay here. Maybe you take little side bends. Maybe you de-weight that top leg to give yourself a little bit more lift. If so, keep it really active. Last couple breaths here. And then slowly unwind. Back to center, back to hands and knees. Little wiggle. Or shake or cat and cow. And then depending where your hands are or where you are on your mat, you might need to walk your hands forward or your knees back, but then shift your weight into your hands a little bit more. So it could just be a modified hands and knees, or maybe you're shifting all the way into plank from your knees or from your toes. Squeeze your bum, squeeze the tops of the thighs. And then as you exhale, come all the way down to the earth. You can always come down to your knees first. A little wiggle of your hips from side to side once you get there. And then come up onto your forearms. All right. So a little squeeze of the bum. You can press the palms together here, or you could come into fist. You could clasp your hands, but we're going to do plank, just a normal plank from Our forearms to start with. So you might press into the knees and come to forearm plank from your knees, or maybe you tuck your toes and come up, but it's not dolphin, right? So don't lift the hips. Keep them in line with the rest of your body. Squeeze your bum. Option to stay here, or maybe you turn that left arm in a little bit so the forearm is parallel with the top edge of your mat, and then start to roll to the right. If you're on your knees, you can do the same thing, just stacking the knees. And then come back to center, and then turn your right forearm parallel to the top edge of the mat and open up. So a couple more of these. What is this doing? Well, obviously you're doing side plank, but it also really helps stabilize your shoulder joint so that when we eventually come up onto our palms, you're really stable and strong. Once more each side. And then back to center. And then exhale. Release all the way down. One cheek to the earth. A couple little windshield wipers of the legs. Or anything that feels good as a release. My heart rate and breath rate is up. How about yours? All right, plant your hands and come back either to child's pose or hands and knees or downward facing dog or anywhere you need to go for a few breaths. All right, and then shake out your arms and let's meet in downward facing dog. If that works for you, if not, you can be on hands and knees. I'm going to demo from downward facing dog though. So hands nice and wide, tuck your toes, lift the hips up and back. All right. On your inhale, lift your left leg high, three-legged dog. And if you're on your hands and knees, this still works. And then step your left foot up halfway between your hands and your foot. Turn the toes out to the left. Bring your right hand forward and in slightly, and then start to roll open to the left. So modified side plank in sort of the opposite way. We used to have the bottom knee on the floor. Now we have the top foot. Press your foot into the floor to lift the hips and then open the chest, the ribs up to the sky. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you take a few hip lifts, right? Again, really using the power of this leg driving into the floor to lift the hips. Last couple breaths here. And then slowly unwind. Come back to hands and knees or downward facing dog. Let's try that on the opposite side. On your inhale, lift your right leg high. Exhale, step your foot up halfway. Spin your toes out to the right. Walk your left hand forward and in. And then shift open to the right. Really wrap this bottom shoulder onto your back. Press into the right foot, especially to lift the hips. Maybe you stay here, just feeling the stability here, or maybe you take a few hip lifts. And your alignment will go off as you do this. That's okay. And on your next exhale, slowly unwind. Come back to downward facing dog. And then gently lower your knees to the earth. Shake out your hands and your wrists. Give them a little tennis stretch or tennis mobility thing. Why do I call that tennis thing? I think maybe my tennis coach years and years ago was the one who showed it to me, so that's why I call it that. All right, you ready? You know it's time, you know it's coming. We're moving into full Vashisthasana. So, excuse me, lots of options along the way. It might not be where you want to be today on your hand, right? You could be on your forearm. You could go back to doing side plank from your knees and your forearms, or from your toes and your forearms, or maybe you do one of the modified versions that we did with either the bottom knee on the floor or the top foot on the floor. Lots and lots of options. I almost said lobsters. Lots of lobsters too, but less relevant at this moment. So make your way back to downward facing dog or hands and knees, wherever you need to be, right? If you're going to be doing a forearm plank or a side one, then you might as well start on your forearms and then lift the hips up. All right. Friends joining me for full side plank. On your inhale, ripple forward, high plank. Bring your right hand forward and in slightly, and then start to roll to the outside edge of that right foot. Now your top foot, if you need more support, you could bend it, or maybe you stack it. Press the hips forward and up. So you're almost in an arc rather than a long line. Maybe that top leg de-weights. Maybe you have some grab of the top foot. That works for you. Last couple breaths here. And slowly unwind back to downward facing dog, or hands and knees, or forearms and knees, whatever you need. Last time. Inhale, ripple forward. Bring the left hand forward and in slightly, and then start to roll to the outside edge of your left foot. Squeeze the bum, press the floor away from you. Lift the hips up a little bit higher. Again, maybe you de-weight the top leg or go where you need to go. Last couple breaths here. All right, slowly unwind. Release your knees to the floor if they're lifted. Shake out your arms. Awesome work. Yay. All right. Whew. Come up to your knees. You can always double up your mat here if you'd like a little bit more cushioning underneath your knees, or kneel up onto a pillow. And then bring your palms to your pelvis behind you. Wrap your shoulder blades, your elbows toward each other. Lift your heart up to the sky. The more you squeeze the shoulder blades toward each other, the more you open through the heart, through the chest, releasing those tight areas. I've done a little bit of work. And then release. Shake it out. And then shift your hips on one side so that you can swing your legs forward. Bring the back of the hands together and press your hands together a little bit here. And then bring your hands behind you, fingertips pointing back. Same thing that we just did while kneeling. Wrap the elbows and shoulder blades toward each other. This might not be enough for you though. If you'd like to deepen it, shift your hips forward. Make sure they're still on the floor. And then lift your heart up to the sky. Last couple breaths here. All right. Bend your elbows, shake out your arms, and then if you want to do a Pilates style roll down, to come down to the mat, tuck the tailbone, and slowly roll down. If that doesn't work for your body, then use your hands, whatever, make your way down onto your back. Doesn't matter how you get there. Once you're down, draw your knees into your chest and take a little rock from side to side. And let's move into a twist now. So take your right arm out to the side. You might shift your hips right a little bit to start with, and then exhale, lower your knees to the left. You can take any variation of twist that you'd like to, whether the knees are stacked, legs crossed, or a single leg twist. But essentially, hopefully, giving release to the obliques, right? those sets of abdominals that kind of crisscross each other and are responsible for lateral stability, but also twisting. Last couple breaths here. And on your inhale, return to center, reset your pelvis and your spine. And then when you're ready, take your twist to the opposite side. So left arm out to the side. Maybe you shift the hips left. And exhale, lower your knees to the right. Again, as gentle or as deep as you need. And it doesn't have to be the same variation of twist on this side that you did on the first. But let it be somewhere that you can be at ease. Vashisthasana, or side plank, is a really fantastic way to feel motivated by our own strengths, right? To feel stronger by doing it, but to also feel, sometimes a little bit humbled by the instabilities. And I feel like it's a good pose to practice that the lessons that we take from it, we can really translate off the mat, doing things that make us feel powerful and strong, but also allowing ourselves to feel humbled and unstable sometimes, or unstable. Last breath here. And then on your inhale, return to center. Reset your pelvis and your spine. Draw your knees into your chest, take them wide out toward your shoulders or armpits. And then one last little release for the wrists. If it works for you here, cross your arms and then unbend your knees. Bring your wrists behind the knees and then hug your heels toward your bum a little bit as you draw the elbows wide. This just gives a little bit of traction on the wrist joints. If this doesn't feel good for you, then by all means, just go into a normal happy baby. And uncross your arms and make your way into your final resting pose. It could be flat on your back, legs bent or straight in Shavasana. You could set up on your side or child's pose or a seated meditation. And as always, there's no rush to get there. But once you have found your pose of rest, for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And then let go of your breath control. Again, let go of any last muscle gripping or tension, particularly in the neck or the jaw. With each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. And stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.